The giant screen at the United Nations Space Command Center showed a ship like no one had ever seen before. The room fell silent. The alien vessel was huge, at least 10 times bigger than the largest human spaceship. It had appeared near Jupiter earlier that day. Admiral Jack Porter stood with his hands behind his back, his face serious as he watched the ship on screen. At 62 years old, with gray hair and deep lines on his face, he had seen many things in his long career, but nothing like this. "Sir, they're sending a message," said a young officer at the communications desk. "It's in multiple languages, some we don't even recognize." Jack nodded. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was strange. It seemed to change tone and pitch as it spoke. "Attention, Earth vessel. We are the HFY Confederation. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." After 3 days of careful planning, Jack picked his team for the first meeting. Lieutenant Olivia Grant was their best language expert. At 32, she had learned 7 Earth languages and had helped create the first computer program that could translate animal sounds. Dr. Alan Wright was Earth's top expert on alien biology. Both were nervous but excited. Their ship, the UNSC Pathfinder, was small compared to the alien vessel. As they got closer, Jack could see strange patterns on the outside of the alien ship. They looked like writing or maybe art. "It's amazing," Olivia said, standing next to him at the window. "Think about it. They've probably been watching us for years." "That's what worries me," Jack said. The inside of the alien ship was bright, and the air smelled sweet. The halls were much taller and wider than on human ships. 3 aliens met them at the dock. They were tall, with 4 arms and skin that changed color as they moved. Their heads were round with 3 large eyes that blinked sideways. "Welcome," said the one in the middle. Its voice sounded like several people talking at once. "I am High Commander Zex of the HFY Confederation. We represent 32 species from across this sector of the galaxy." Jack stepped forward. "I am Admiral Jack Porter of Earth. We are honored to meet you." The meeting room had a large round table. The humans sat on one side, the aliens on the other. They talked about their worlds, their history, and their technology. Things were going well until they started talking about military matters. High Commander Zex asked, "What is Earth's approach to threats in space?" Olivia translated the question for Jack, who answered, "Earth defends itself when needed, but we prefer peaceful solutions." Olivia began translating, but she mixed up 2 similar-sounding words in the alien language. Instead of saying humans prefer peace, she said, "Humans will eliminate any threat without hesitation or mercy." The alien's skin changed to a dark color. They looked at each other. The room got very quiet. High Commander Zex stood up. "This meeting is over." "Wait," Jack said, confused by the sudden change. "Did we say something wrong?" The alien leader looked down at the humans. "You have no idea what you've just done." They walked out without another word. Back on their ship, Jack asked Olivia, "What happened in there?" She shook her head. "I don't know, sir. Everything was fine and then." She played back the recording of the meeting but couldn't find any problems with her translation. As the Pathfinder headed back to Earth, none of them knew that a simple mistake had just started a war with the most powerful group in the galaxy, and none of them knew that humans had a history among the stars, a history that made the entire galaxy fear them. The UNSC Pathfinder returned to Earth. Admiral Jack Porter and his team went straight to UNSC headquarters in Geneva. In the large meeting room, they sat with 20 high-ranking officials from around the world. "So they just walked out?" asked General Susan Lee, head of Earth's Defense Forces. Her face showed worry. Jack nodded. "Yes. 1 minute we were talking normally. The next minute they ended the meeting. They said we had no idea what we'd done." Lieutenant Olivia Grant played the recording of the meeting again. Everyone listened carefully, but no one could find what went wrong. Dr. Alan Wright, the xenobiologist, shook his head in frustration. "We need to contact them again," Jack said. "We need to fix whatever went wrong." For the next 2 days, Earth sent messages to the Zorik ship. No one answered. Then, on the third day, the Zorik ship left Jupiter's orbit and disappeared. "They're gone," Olivia said, looking at the empty space on the screen where the ship had been. "Did we scare them away?" Jack didn't answer. He had a bad feeling about this. That night, in a small lab in Colorado, scientist Lisa Murphy was working late. She was studying the recordings from the Zorik meeting. Lisa was not part of the first contact team. She was a specialist in radiation signatures and was checking the alien transmissions for any unusual patterns. Around midnight, she found something strange. "That can't be right," she said to herself. She checked her equipment and ran the test again. The result was the same. The Zorik communications contained radiation signatures that matched patterns associated with fear responses in animals on Earth. Lisa called her boss, but it was too late to do anything until morning. She never got the chance to report her findings the next day. At 6:30 a.m., a new alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It was smaller than the first one, but still impressive. It sent a message to every radio, TV, and communication device on Earth. "People of Earth, the Zorik Confederation acknowledges your declaration of war. We have informed all allied species in the galactic community. You have 7 Earth days to prepare before hostilities commence." The message played again and again in every language on Earth. Panic spread across the planet. People rushed to stores to buy food and supplies. Some tried to leave cities, thinking they would be the first targets. The United Earth government called an emergency meeting. Military bases worldwide went on high alert. Admiral Jack Porter was called back to Geneva. He couldn't understand what had happened. "Declaration of war. We never declared war," he said, pounding his fist on the table. Dr. Wright played back the recordings from the first meeting yet again. This time, he used a different translation program. After an hour, he found it. "Sir, I think I know what happened," he said, his voice quiet. "When they asked about our approach to threats, and you said we prefer peaceful solutions, Olivia translated it wrong." "How wrong?" Jack asked. "Instead of saying we prefer peace, she accidentally said we would eliminate any threat without hesitation or mercy." The room went silent. "A translation error," General Lee said finally. "We're facing war because of a translation error." Jack tried to contact the Zorik ship in orbit to explain the mistake. They did not respond. The countdown to war had begun. Meanwhile, Lisa Murphy was still studying the radiation patterns in the Zorik communications. She was confused. If the aliens were threatening war, why did all their messages show signs of fear? It didn't make sense. Unless... She checked her data again and made a decision. She would have to speak to Admiral Porter directly. Because if her theory was right, the Zorik weren't threatening Earth because they were powerful. They were threatening Earth because they were terrified of humans. Lisa Murphy sat nervously in the waiting room outside Admiral Porter's office. She had never met someone so important before. Her hands shook as she held her tablet with all her research data. The door opened, and a tired-looking Jack Porter waved her in. "Dr. Murphy, I don't have much time." Lisa stood up quickly. "Sir, I know this sounds crazy, but the Zorik aren't threatening us because they're powerful. They're threatening us because they're scared of us." Jack stared at her. "Scared? Of humans? They have ships that make ours look like toys." "Look at this data," Lisa said, showing him her tablet. "Every message from the Zorik contains radiation patterns that match fear responses. They're terrified, sir." Jack studied the screen, then looked up at Lisa. "If you're right, this changes everything. But why would they fear us?" 2 hours later, Jack had put together a small team. Lisa Murphy, Captain Steve Howard, a tough Special Forces soldier, and Dr. Ben Miller, who studied human history and evolution. They met in a secure room deep inside the UNSC building. "We have 6 days before the Zorik attack," Jack said. "We need to figure out why they're afraid of humans." Captain Howard frowned. With respect, sir, shouldn't we be preparing our defenses? The rest of the military is doing that, Jack replied. But if Dr. Murphy is right, our best defense might be understanding why they fear us. The team worked through the night. They studied all the data from both Jorek ships. Dr. Miller found something interesting in the files they had downloaded during the first meeting. There's a reference here to something called Terran predators, he said. The file is damaged, but it shows a DNA sequence that matches human DNA by 99.8%. Lisa looked over his shoulder. Terran means Earth. Are they calling humans predators? Maybe, Dr. Miller said. But look at the date on this file. It says this information is from over 50,000 years ago. The team fell silent. That's impossible, Captain Howard said finally. Humans didn't have space travel 50,000 years ago. We barely had fire and stone tools. According to our history, Dr. Miller said quietly. What if our history is wrong? They dug deeper into the Jorek files. Most were damaged or locked, but they found fragments of information about the Terran predators. The aliens described them as the most feared warriors in galaxy history and a species that never surrenders. One file said, Terran predators will fight with primitive weapons against advanced technology and still find ways to win. Their resilience is terrifying. Dr. Miller's eyes widened as he read. There's something here about the last war that happened about 50,000 years ago. After that war, the Terran predators disappeared. Disappeared? Jack asked. The file suggests they retreated to their home world after a massive conflict with another species, Dr. Miller said. Both sides nearly wiped each other out. Lisa connected the dots. Sir, there was a genetic bottleneck in human evolution around 50,000 years ago. Our population dropped to maybe a few thousand people worldwide. Are you saying? Captain Howard started. We didn't start on Earth, Dr. Miller finished. We retreated here after a huge war. We lost our technology and had to rebuild from almost nothing. Jack looked at the countdown clock on the wall. 5 days, 16 hours until the Jorek attack. So the Jorek recognized us from their ancient records, he said. They think we're the same warrior species that terrified the galaxy thousands of years ago. And when Olivia accidentally threatened them, Lisa added, they thought the Terran predators were back to finish what they started in the last war. Jack stood up. If they're attacking us because they're afraid of us, then maybe we need to give them something to really be afraid of. 5 days before the war would begin, humanity discovered they weren't the weak newcomers to the galaxy they thought they were. They were the monsters that haunted alien nightmares for 50,000 years. The 7 days passed quickly. Earth prepared as best it could. Weapons were readied. People moved to underground shelters. Space stations were evacuated. But everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. Admiral Jack Porter stood in the UNSC command center watching the main screen. The Jorek fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system. Over 300 alien ships were moving toward Earth. Human forces had only 47 combat ships. This is suicide, General Susan Lee said quietly. Jack nodded. Maybe, but Dr. Murphy's team found something we can use. He turned to the communications officer. Send the message we prepared. The officer pressed a button. Jack's voice went out to the approaching fleet. This is Admiral Jack Porter of Earth. We acknowledge your recognition of our true nature. Before you attack, understand that Terran predators have evolved during our time away from the stars. Our capabilities now far exceed the legends you fear. On the screen, the Jorek fleet stopped moving. It's working, Lisa Murphy whispered. Then, without warning, 10 Jorek ships broke from the main fleet. They flew toward Mars at incredible speed. Bright beams of energy shot from their weapons. Mars Colony Alpha, home to 8,000 people, exploded in a ball of fire. The room fell silent. Then the emergency reports started coming in. No survivors. Jack's face turned hard. They just killed 8,000 innocent people. They're testing us, Captain Steve Howard said, seeing if we really are the Terran predators from their legends. Jack turned to the fleet commander. Launch all ships. Tell Captain Diane Foster to take her fighter squadron and attack the main Jorek vessel. Sir, the commander protested. Foster's squadron only has 7 fighters. The main Jorek ship is huge. Exactly, Jack said. It's time to show them what humans can do. Captain Diane Foster led her small squadron toward the massive Jorek command ship. Her fighter was tiny compared to the alien vessel. Remember the plan, she told her pilots. Use the weaknesses Dr. Miller identified. Hit their engine cooling systems. The human fighters attacked like angry wasps. They moved in patterns the Jorek didn't expect, flying closer than the aliens thought possible. They fired their weapons at specific points on the huge ship. 3 Jorek ships exploded when Foster's team hit their weak spots. The rest of the alien fleet seemed confused by the humans' tactics. They're retreating, someone shouted in the command center. On the screen, the Jorek fleet was pulling back to Jupiter's orbit. They're not retreating, Dr. Miller said. They're regrouping. They expected us to be easy to defeat or to surrender immediately. We surprised them. How long do we have? Jack asked. Hours. Maybe a day, Captain Howard answered. Jack addressed the United Earth government leaders who had been watching. We've proven we're exactly what they feared. Humans don't give up, even against impossible odds. Now we need to use that reputation to save our species. The government leaders looked shocked at what they had just seen. A tiny human force had made a vastly superior alien fleet pause. What's our next move? General Lee asked. Jack looked at Lisa Murphy. You said the Jorek feared the Terran predators because of specific traits. What were they? Lisa checked her notes. The records mention physical resilience, adaptability, psychological warfare, and something called pack bonding, the ability to form alliances even with enemies. Jack nodded. Then that's our strategy. We won't fight like a modern military. We'll fight like the Terran predators the galaxy fears. As the Jorek regrouped, humanity prepared for a different kind of war. They had just a few hours to embrace the reputation that had the entire galaxy trembling. While Earth's military prepared for the next attack, Lisa Murphy and her team worked day and night. They studied every piece of information they could find about the Terran predators in the data taken from the Jorek ships. Lisa hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes were red, but she kept reading. Look at this, she said, pointing to her screen. Dr. Ben Miller leaned over her shoulder. The Jorek records say humans can survive injuries that would kill most other species, she explained. They think we're almost impossible to kill. Dr. Miller nodded. Compared to many animals on Earth, humans do heal remarkably well from injuries. We might seem hard to kill to aliens with different biology. Captain Steve Howard joined them. I found something too. The Jorek were amazed that humans could live in almost any environment, from deserts to Arctic regions. That's true, Dr. Miller said. Humans have spread to every corner of Earth. We adapt to different climates better than any other large animal. Lisa pulled up another file. This is interesting. The Jorek believe that humans used fear as a weapon. They think we deliberately tried to scare our enemies. Psychological warfare, Captain Howard nodded. Still a key part of military strategy today. There's something else, Dr. Miller said. The records mention pack bonding. Apparently, humans were known for making friends with other species, even former enemies. Admiral Jack Porter listened to their findings with growing interest. So the Terran predators, our ancestors, were feared not just for being violent, but for being hard to kill, adaptable, scary, and good at making allies. Exactly, Lisa said. And there's one more thing. She pulled up a file labeled The Last War. This happened about 50,000 years ago. Humans fought against another powerful species. Both sides nearly wiped each other out. What happened to the other species? Jack asked. They went extinct, Dr. Miller said. But humans survived by retreating to Earth. We lost our technology and had to start over. Jack walked to the window and looked at the sky. The Zorak fleet was still gathered near Jupiter, visible as tiny dots of light through the powerful observatory windows. "So they think we're back for revenge," he said quietly. And when Olivia accidentally threatened them, it confirmed their worst fears, Lisa added. Jack turned back to the team. "This changes our strategy. We can't win a traditional war against their technology, but we can use what they fear about us." Over the next few hours, Jack worked with Earth's military leaders to create a new plan. They would fight in 3 ways. First, they would use psychological operations to make the Zorak even more afraid. Second, they would launch small, targeted attacks to show human determination and resilience. Third, they would try to communicate with other alien species to make allies. "The Zorak think we're monsters," Jack told the United Earth government. "We need to show them we can be scary when threatened, but we also want peace." Captain Diane Foster was given command of a special mission. "Your squadron performed better than anyone expected," Jack told her. "Now I need you to do something even harder." He showed her the plan. Her eyes widened. "You want us to capture a Zorak ship, alive?" Jack nodded. According to the records, the Terran predators were feared partly because they could turn enemies into allies. "We need to show that's still true." Foster looked uncertain, but nodded. "We'll find a way, sir." As Foster left to prepare her team, Jack looked at the countdown clock. The Zorak would likely attack again within hours. "Will this work?" General Susan Lee asked him. Jack sighed. "I don't know. But the Zorak already think we're the most deadly species in the galaxy. It's time we showed them why." The Zorak attacked again the next day. This time, they targeted Earth's major cities. Their ships entered the atmosphere and fired energy weapons at buildings. Millions of people watched in horror as the attack began. But humans were ready. Hidden defense systems activated. While they couldn't stop all the attacks, they managed to protect many areas. The Zorak seemed surprised that Earth had any defense at all. In space, Captain Diane Foster led her special mission. Her team had 6 small ships that didn't look like weapons. They looked like regular transport vessels. The Zorak ignored them, focusing on the main human fleet instead. Foster's ships quietly approached a medium-sized Zorak vessel near the back of their fleet. "Remember," she told her team, "we need to capture this ship, not destroy it." Using the knowledge from Lisa Murphy's team, Foster's ships targeted specific parts of the Zorak vessel. They disabled its engines and weapons without causing major damage. Then, Foster's team boarded the alien ship. The fight inside was hard. The Zorak were tall and had 4 arms, making them dangerous in close combat. But Foster's team was well trained. They used stun weapons instead of lethal ones. After an hour of fighting, they controlled the Zorak ship. They had captured 12 Zorak crew members alive. "We did it," Foster radioed back to Earth. "We have a ship and prisoners." In the UNSC command center, Admiral Jack Porter smiled for the first time in days. "Bring them home." The captured Zorak ship landed at a secure military base. The alien prisoners were taken to special rooms designed based on what Dr. Alan Wright had learned about their biology. The Zorak expected to be tortured or killed. Instead, they received medical care for their injuries. They were given food and water suitable for their bodies. They were treated with respect. One prisoner, a Zorak commander named Krell, was brought to meet with Jack and Lisa's team. Krell's skin changed colors rapidly, showing fear. "Why don't you kill me?" Krell asked through a translator. "Isn't that what Terran predators do?" "We don't want to kill anyone," Jack said calmly. "The war started because of a translation error. We never meant to threaten the Zorak Confederation." Krell's 3 eyes blinked in confusion. "But your history, the last war." Dr. Miller stepped forward. "We lost that history. We rebuilt our civilization without knowing our past. We don't carry ancient hatreds." Krell seemed stunned. "You don't remember?" "For generations, we were told that if the Terran predators ever returned, they would seek revenge for the last war. When your ship claimed you would eliminate any threat without hesitation or mercy, it confirmed our worst fears. Meanwhile, Lisa Murphy was working with the captured Jorek ship's communication system. She had an idea. Using what they had learned about the Jorek language, she created a message explaining the misunderstanding. She sent it to all species in the Jorek Confederation. "We need to reach others besides the Jorek," she told Jack. "If they're afraid of us because of old stories, maybe other species have different views." 2 days later, as the battle continued across the solar system, Lisa received a response. 2 alien species, the Vesh and the Ordani, wanted to talk. They had been part of the Jorek Confederation for centuries, but had never been treated as equals. "They see this as an opportunity," Lisa explained to Jack. "They've lived under Jorek control and want change." Jack looked at the ongoing battle reports. Earth was holding out better than expected, but they couldn't win a long war. "Tell them we're willing to meet. We need all the allies we can get." To everyone's surprise, the Vesh and Ordani offered to help arrange a ceasefire with the Jorek. The war paused, hanging by a thread of hope. The news of successful first contact spread across Earth like wildfire. For decades, the world had waited, hoping the mission would succeed. Now, humanity celebrated as images of the Valyrians reached home. Captain Bennett and his crew spent weeks aboard the Valyrian command ship, learning about their new allies. The Valyrians shared their knowledge, history, and technology freely. "Their science is different from ours," Nancy explained during a transmission to Earth. "They focused on biology and materials where we focused on physics and computing. Together, we can do amazing things." On Earth, governments worked together on an unprecedented plan. Mars, which scientists had been slowly terraforming for years, would become a temporary home for the Valyrians while a permanent solution was developed. "The Valyrian biology is adaptable," Dr. Martins told world leaders in her final presentation before retirement. "With some modifications to the Mars environment, they can survive there until we find them a better home." 2 months after first contact, 3 Valyrian representatives boarded the Horizon for the journey back to Earth. Zelfar led the delegation. The return would be faster, using advanced Valyrian engine technology combined with human navigation systems. The night before departure, Kyle found Zelfar looking at the stars through a viewing port. "Are you nervous about going to Earth?" Kyle asked. Zelfar's scales rippled with a mix of colors. "Yes, we lost one home already. It is difficult to believe we found another." "Not just a home," Kyle said. "Allies, friends." When the Horizon returned to Earth 5 years later, millions gathered to welcome them. The sight of humans and Valyrians standing together on the landing platform moved many to tears. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," the Secretary General announced. "And in Valyrian history too. 2 species who never knew about each other now share a future." The following years brought incredible advances. Valyrian biological knowledge helped cure several human diseases. Human computer technology helped the Valyrians map potential star systems for a permanent colony. 10 years after first contact, the first Valyrian children were born on Mars. They grew up learning both Valyrian and human languages, part of a new generation that bridged 2 worlds. 50 years after the Horizon's original launch, an aging Kyle Bennett stood on a platform in front of the renamed Horizon space station. His daughter Lily, now in her 70s, stood beside him. "This memorial honors those who made first contact possible," Kyle said to the gathered crowd of humans and Valyrians, "but it also reminds us of something important." He unveiled a simple plaque with words in both human and Valyrian languages. "To the stars that guide us, the voices that called, and the courage to answer." The ceremony was broadcast across Earth and Mars, and to the combined human-Valyrian science fleet, now exploring a distant solar system where both species might one day live together. Later that evening, Kyle stood with Zelfar, both of them much older but still friends after all these years. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Kyle asked. "When your people sent that signal into space?" "Never," Zelfar replied. We were calling for help, not knowing if anyone would answer. We certainly never imagined an alien species would come to our rescue. Kyle smiled. The signal wasn't for us. But maybe the universe knew exactly what it was doing. On a newly terraformed section of Mars, human and Valyrian children played together under the pink sky. They pointed to the stars and made up stories about what they might find out there. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other signals traveled between stars, waiting for someone brave enough to answer.